so ready to get back to just doing regular shit.
Yeah.
You be like, ooh man, once I get this tire fixed, I'm gonna go to the stove. And be like,
My window was busted like 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden, I want to drive live. I want to like go out. Like,
you just thinking about all the possibilities.
Everything
I
you
got in
couldn't
my
do.
car, I was just like, I'm just gonna go back home.
I don't know, that's crazy. But you know, all right, man. Episode 6, Black Group Therapy. We are here. We made it. Every episode, I am just so proud of us, man. Let's give ourselves a hand. We are back. We want to shout out to the Loop 2150 for opening their doors and allowing us to do such dope things. Before we started, man, we went through and we was like, yo, where y'all at? Empress, what was your number again?
100 or something like that.
So, who wants to explain like this number system that we have?
The one who
Rachel.
created it. I was about to say.
Okay, go ahead, so they can know this
They
number
threw
system.
me all the way under the bus. Okay, so we do this. We started doing this check-in because we thought it was vital. I thought it was vital.
Mhm.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being good, 5 being neutral, we got all high numbers mostly. Relatively, we're gonna get you to an 8. We're gonna get you to an 8, but that's how the check-in works.
And the check-in system is pretty much like, how was your day on a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I said 6. I said 6 because like I had a regular day, right? I'm not like, oh, my day was so great. I found $5 walking down the street. It was like a regular day, you know. I can't complain.
Hey, taxes ain't come back? That'll boost your day.
Yeah,
Several days.
people ready for them taxes.
Them taxes though?
Man.
Did y'all vote?
I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
a Chicago resident.
Okay, so you get a pass. Did y'all vote?
Plead the fifth.
Yep.
Where y'all?
Right
Where
before I
y'all?
came here.
Plead the
Look at-
fifth.
Y'all should be ashamed of y'all black selves.
What she said, I'm not.
You're not Chicago resident either.
I'm
Oh,
not.
dang.
I just,
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not a Chicago.
And you know, I voted for.
Amara?
Yeah, I voted for Amara. I think her
Party
Downstairs.
downstairs.
what is it called? Her
Is it a watch party?
no, not her watch party, but I think her
Celebration?
office. Don't she got?
Oh yeah, she do. Her field office is upstairs.
Yeah. So I voted for her, man. I saw her in the Breakfast Club, and she said, you know what she said that made me be like, all right, I'm finna go vote.
What?
She was like, yo, we trying to get rid of boots. So like get rid of the whole boot system, like
Yeah.
you know, people getting boots on their cars.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
coming up, I used to get me some boots.
Coming up.
So
Wait, I had like
You say-
2 boots last year.
Made a payment plan yesterday.
Man, I voted for the right person too then. Shit.
yeah, I'm like, that's all she had to say for a guy like me. I'm like, man,
so you ain't listening to hear nothing else?
nah, that's all I needed to hear.
I mean, I really feel
I mean, I
like
know more than
somebody
that,
needs
but
to
I
do
ain't
something
know that
about
outright.
these red light reinforcements. Illinois toll road be getting you. You run through $1.50 toll, they give you a $200 ticket. Baby,
Yeah.
where in life did you think I was gonna pay that?
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford the $1.50. I'm gonna give you $200. I couldn't afford.
But for the
$1.50.
record, because I work there, it's really not 200 instantly. You have a certain amount of time to pay it. People get so many notices, and they would call and say what she's saying. I'm like, you done got like 3 notices in the mail, and you skipping them. Then you get that double 200 infraction, and then you're like, oh my god. Just saying, because you know when y'all call those people, y'all shouldn't be rude like that. It made my job hard. I don't work there no more because it was kind of like very rough, and you couldn't miss a day. So it was like, no, you can't deal with that every day. People that just not paying attention to mail, because really you get the fee and you can pay the $1.50 if you pay it within, you know, the next day. You go online and just check it.
Yeah, but they also be asking
You got
the
7
time that
days.
you ran it.
That's your
The
day.
toll
You
that
ran
you
it.
ran through.
That part is your problem. But
Come
to
on,
get
bro.
the, if you run the tollway, you
bro.
see the toll, you be
That's
like, yo,
good.
I'm gonna pay that later. Just pay it later, or pay $200 and risk it. Like, you know, I'm just saying, don't call us like that. Where at some point in your life, you gotta know you running through the tollway and it costs. So don't take that way. Just take the long way.
It can still,
Y'all would take the easy route.
I'm not
it
even
can,
gonna
it can
lie.
still be more efficient because like there's been
Thank
times
you.
like I try and go online and he be like, were you heading northbound or something?
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
I
okay, I
agree
get
that
it.
the
Y'all talking
online
about-
system ain't so great. But But we working on it.
Thank you.
And it do
And I
work.
don't get no notices. They just send me like, oh, you owe us like $700. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
they
the fact
told me
that
I owe
start
them
putting the
$20,000.
ATM, like,
They
use
start
the
making
card.
it so much easier for people, but you know, you have to know how to use those things. So.
Yeah.
Shut the front door.
I don't know. Like, do y'all think like? I don't know. My thing with that is like, I think that the city gets a bulk of its income off of people who are already poor.
Bro,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
And
definitely.
that's not fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I forgot what I was reading, but I was reading something that was talking about like how a lot of like parking tickets and stuff like that, like coming from like poor areas. You know what I'm saying? Across the city.
Mm-hmm.
So when she said like, man,
South side.
yeah.
Our parking meters out there is crazy.
And like people are already just trying to like get through the day and work, and they barely, you know, paying their regular bills. You know,
I guess it wouldn't be a problem if we didn't have like those Bigfoot. Like he just walks through our whole city potholes right there while you driving.
Man.
If they put the money somewhere, you probably would be like,
So-
okay, that's fine. But it's
Yeah.
like our streets are horrible, especially
said
on
that.
the southeast side.
I said that earlier. I said, give me somebody who would put in an automatic like tax write-off for having a vehicle and driving a vehicle in Chicago, because you're gonna hit the potholes.
Yeah.
You're gonna jack your car up.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I had to get my car fixed today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, if that goes into effect, I'm down. I got
Exactly.
you. I'm gonna have my little tag.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it was like when everybody was like voting for like the Senate and you know and the presidential stuff. I was like, man, all right, okay. I don't even think we really got power in that situation. But like this is a situation where we kind of do got power, and like I'm noticing like how like the media like you know they're not really like covering it as much
Yeah.
as they do like presidential
campaigns,
elections. So
stuff
I'm like,
that.
okay, this must really mean something.
Because they know that it's getting black people in the smaller areas first, the courts, the
Local.
local
Yeah.
places.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And then
that's
they go
why.
bigger, so they know that like if we dominate that part, we can be able to police each other more
Yeah.
efficiently.
Yeah. And like outside of her, like with the whole boot thing, I was being comical, but I low key want her to do it. Like I think that she's like relatable for me at least. You know, like she's 35. You know, she's a black woman. She lives on the west side of Chicago. You know, she's lives in like a regular neighborhood. You know what I mean? I think that somebody like that can be more relatable to the issues that plague my community and our community. So I was like, yo, the least I could do is go up in there. I ain't got no record, you know what I'm saying? They ain't finna turn me around. Let me go do that and then get my butt up out.
Now I always wondered like how does that work for the record thing? Because see, I work the polls and I've had a record the whole time I was working the polls and I voted, but everybody keeps saying like if you got a record you can't vote, and I thought felons could vote. Just to let y'all know I'm a felon. If anybody, oh yeah.
No,
So,
in the state,
y'all, but I
in the
didn't
state of
know.
Illinois, felons can vote. I
Yeah.
believe it's after a certain amount of time. Like you can't vote if you're still. I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe it's if you're still on probation for
Yeah.
that felony.
Yeah,
You can't vote.
yeah. I think it's that
But
because after
once
you get off, you
finish
can
like
vote.
your time, you get your voting rights back.
So that's not an excuse for anybody out there listening, like, oh, I'm a felon. Because I like working the polls, and it made me feel good. Like, okay, well, at least they don't care about that. Because anybody with a felon could work for the city. You just got to have a clean system. If you don't have a clean system, you kind of screwed in any situation. But, yeah, just to let y'all out there know, since we're in this political time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. All
How
right,
does
man.
that actually work? They don't actually turn you away at the polls, did it? Like
No,
if you try to vote
I
and you was a felon,
honestly
you
don't
using the system?
know. I really don't even know how they would do
I
that.
don't think they even got. I don't really like because I.
Oh, you gotta come in with this card thing.
Yeah, I think they.
I don't
Yeah,
even think you
those
get one if you on
registration.
probation.
Yeah, you
so you
gotta be
probably won't
registered.
even get one in the mail.
Yeah, because I know when I haven't voted in about 2 years, if I'm being honest. And then like when I went in there, I just recently moved, so I had to give them my old address for them to even pull me up and see that I was able to vote. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that like all of you have to be like given the okay to vote before you even get there. You know what I'm saying? For it to even pull up in their little system or whatever. But anyway, y'all ready to get to these questions, man? We got some interesting topics to discuss tonight, man. I guess we'll start off with talking about what's going on in the media as far as like all of these.
Sickos.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause they're sick.
well, I think that's going to be one of the main questions tonight, right? One of the main issues, like, what do we call them? You know, so I'll go ahead and read this, right? One of the questions is, how has pedophilia historically impacted society? While men and women who sexually abuse minors are viewed as sick and twisted in today's society, that wasn't always the case. Who are some historical figures that can be viewed as pedophiles today? Is it a sickness or just one of many ways that people abuse power? So, who wants to go first? What y'all think?
Pedophilia is like messing with the child, of course.
Mhm.
So, like, if we're gonna deem, you could deem like kings pedophiles. You could deem a lot of people pedophiles, but then you can go into the aspect of the fact that not only other races did it, our races did like the whole arranged family marriage thing, where the girl, she may have been just blossomed and she gets married, but it just goes into more about what happens when she does get married. Like, when she get married, does that person rip her clothes off and have sex with her continuously and make her just a sex machine, or does he make her a wife, a woman that's respected in the village? It's just, I think it's different back in those times. So we get to today, where a lot of men who have that problem and they have money and they do those same things, those same men who have money, who have power and status in whatever area they do, and it's not looked upon as great, especially if we're going to talk about the media with R. Kelly and all of those other people, because what they did to the girls when they did take the girls, not only was they sleeping with those girls, R. Kelly was just doing some whole extra. He didn't take girls and mold them into great women, teach them, learn them, because he actually loved her, this woman. He doesn't see her as a child, whatever other way you could look at that, because it's a lot of women that say, I'm dating this older man and he don't look at me like a child, and he teaches me things and he invested in me and I'm well taken care of and I do love him, and they get married, they stay and have kids. And then you have some that's like, you get this older man and he manipulative and he really don't care for you. He more so using the fact that you fast. Because I was talking to somebody about it and they brought it up. One of my photographers. It's crazy how during the shoot, this is the conversation, but they was good to talk about it. He basically kept saying like, but we need to talk about these fast girls and these fast girls, and I keep hearing that fast, and I'm like, you like that same man that talks to those girls that's too young, you look at them like they fast. So you already have a notion like, even if she ain't old enough, she fast as hell, so she going. So I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage because she fast and this is what she want. Instead of saying, I value myself, because we can go back to what I said before, I value myself as a man to not even want to get involved with the minor. A minor can't do nothing for me, if that's how you feel.
Yeah,
you know?
I hear what you're saying too. That's interesting. I never looked at it like that, because like I was researching, right, like the definition of pedophilia, and like what I discovered was like a pedophile is someone who is attracted to prepubescent, you know what I'm saying, kids, like people between the ages of like 6 to 12, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's like, does R. Kelly fall in, you know, that category? I don't think so.
I was even actually fall in the rapist category too, because he didn't physically take it from those girls. So
I think at this point it doesn't even matter, but like for the sake of conversation, it's like, what is he like what is really going on, right? Because like it said, like I was reading something that was saying like 20 to 30% of people who are pedophile, who do commit like child molestation acts, are pedophiles, meaning like they're only attracted to, you know, little kids. And then like the remaining 70% are people who are just abusing power, right? Or people who are like socially awkward and don't know how to communicate with people of their own age. So it made me wonder, like with this whole like R. Kelly situation, and even like with a lot of stuff that's going on in the media with like the Catholic Church, like a lot of priests, like they've been getting called out for years on, you know, what's been going on in the church. Like these are kind of like socially awkward people as well. Like, you know, like what's going on with that?
I think it is heavily about difference in power, because in most situations it's always a power dynamic, meaning like the guy, or even in some cases the woman, like has a position of authority over that person. And that's really like the biggest issue with it. Cause like I know like there's a situation with someone I knew, like the girl was of age, he was of age, but the issue was like he was her teacher, and they were like in the same industry, and it's like there's a clear power dynamic here because you're a person of authority over her, which is why everybody had a issue with it. And it's like in trying to understand it, just guessing, like there could easily be a thing of, because you never know what the other person is thinking. It could easily be like in your mind it's like, well, no, you know, they're old enough to make their own decisions, yada yada yada, but like you don't know if they're putting their own pressure on themselves depending on the situation, the context of it, of like, you know, because you're that person in authority, like, oh, I should give in to this because they can ruin my career, or they can, you know, ruin my life type thing, which is why it's just.
Or they could take you there, like, but still ignorance for that person though who's in power. Ignorance in the court of law is not an excuse for why you're not a pedophile, for why you're not a rapist. The fact still remains.
It doesn't make you a pedophile.
The fact still remains if it's somebody underage and she's a minor, that's a pedophile. You know, so it's nothing, nobody can slice it for you because by definition in law you are. And your ignorance to that, because I'm in power and she wanted and she thought she was going somewhere, that has got nothing to do with you still abusing the fact that you know where you are in life and you have to handle yourself accordingly. All the girls on the tour bus, all the little boys in church, like, it don't matter.
Yeah, like that's like
you gotta know yourself.
You're talking about like something where an instance where they can be of age and be in a situation with someone who they may deem more powerful than them, so they just like kind of do whatever they're told in hopes that it'll get them to wherever it is that they.
It's still a.
And is that predatory behavior?
It is.
In a sense.
It is. It's like you have power and you know better. It's like still.
No, I'm not talking about like from the man, but I'm talking
the woman.
From the woman who is like, okay, I'll play your game for now.
Is that predatory behavior from her?
I think arguably it can be viewed as
well, you gotta look at like, do she go everywhere in her life looking that way? I guess one instance don't make her. If it depends on how many instances this person has with going after people with power at that point, because you can't really say she a predator because she failed for a person in power one time.
Did she fall?
You don't know.
I was gonna say, I think what he's trying to get at is like, is it her playing like the possum?
And I'm saying,
like,
you wouldn't.
I'm weak and I'm helpless. And
but I think you wouldn't really know because I still feel like
you do know.
I still like you wouldn't know because one time
she wouldn't take that from a broke nigga,
and he wouldn't do that to a person if he didn't have the power. So if he didn't have the power, he wouldn't.
Exactly. So
if he didn't have the advantage, he wouldn't even have even came at it that way.
Often in life, people encounter each other and try to use each other. My thing is, ain't nothing wrong with using somebody, right? If you can't be used, you're useless, right? But the issue sets in when you start to misuse someone, and a lot of times people in power fall into misusing people because there's so many people around them, low key trying to just use them.
Exactly, and that's when they get caught up.
What are you finna say?
Oh, okay. I don't want to say we can't say you wouldn't take it from a broke nigga because I know plenty of women out here taking a lot of stuff from broke niggas.
That's because they probably broke too, but go ahead.
I
ain't got no choice.
I don't really feel like that has to do with anything, especially if you're going somewhere looking for the come up, period.
Right.
You already broke. Well, I don't want to say you already broke, but you're broken in some type of way. But like, I feel like it has to do more with a mental state. Where's your mental capacity at?
Yep.
Do you know your worth? And do you know how to show your worth in a sense? And how do you display yourself when you go places? Because I feel like predatory people, man, I ain't gonna say no names, but I know a guy that used to say he would search for women who were sexually abused because he felt like they were better sexually in bed.
Whoa, that's scary as fuck.
Like they were freakier. And like, so you have people that will seek out the people that are broken so that they can misuse them. And it's like, it's not necessarily that I'm trying to use you too. I might just be trusting or naive or gullible, or I feel like, damn, you the first person that ever came to my aid, and hell yeah, like I'm gonna open up my heart to you, and that could be boy or girl. And it's like, I trusted you, and you showed me why I should never trust anybody again.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna argue with that. That's predatory behavior on that part. But I mean, you know.
But I feel like.
If it's like a situation like with what we were talking about, where she's like, yo, I'm trying to do music, and you're, you know, R. Kelly, and I know if I can just be around you, then I can get closer to my dream. And he like, yo, I really don't need you at all, but you want to be around me. You've been trying to be around me. Cool, come be around me.
Okay.
So his
he gave fake promises to these girls. Like he knew that they wanted that, so he took that as the motive to get them to go wherever he wanted, travel with him,
whatever,
and had these promises that they probably would do this, that, and the other, but never followed through.
Do we know he gave them fake promises?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Your whole point was just that obviously they had predatory behavior if he offered them anything or even led them to believe there was anything.
Even letting them come with
exactly.
them.
So it's clear that he promised them something. Even if you want to say they had predatory behavior, they were promised those things to prey upon. And they were dangled in their faces, and then he never gave them anything. So, like you said, everybody looking for something to benefit. If you can't benefit, you're useless. That do mean that. But in this industry, though, don't you think it's sad that if you're a man and a girl say, "Hey, I need to be around you because you got you got where I need to go," instead of helping somebody get there or not helping them because you don't need them, you tell them to do nasty things to you because you want to test how far they gonna go
and
for that song.
It just warps them and it distracts them from the entire path.
You a starving artist. You want to go somewhere. Like it's models that could tell you this is hard. Like photographers is trying them, and this man got a magazine. He ain't even got a magazine. Nobody even paying attention to the traffic. But people will literally like overlook that part and think they can go somewhere, and you will feel sad.
Exactly. This whole thing with motives, it just looks like it's someone that has empty voids attracting somebody with the same, and then they're just filling each other up in toxic ways, and it gets nowhere but just a whole bunch of violation.
Yep.
I think the things that I'm interested in is because I think from the outside in we do a lot of speculating, and a lot of it is perspectives, and a lot of it is how people feel at the time, and everything could be judged a different way depending on how you're looking at it. But as a community, how do we set guidelines and values that we adhere to? And if we've set those, are they set, and like have they been applied? And is R. Kelly just sensationalism, or is there a bigger epidemic that's taking place? People aren't talking about.
I think it definitely is a bigger, well, at least maybe not. It depends on which community you're talking about. Like in the entertainment community, there's definitely like a huge problem when it comes to just sexual abuse in general. So, and I think me personally, like, you know, of course ain't no proof, but I wouldn't be surprised like if they still had like, you know, those like old meetings, like, cause it all came from like Greek culture, all these people that they love, the Greek philosophers, they used to have little boys around them all the time that they was messing with.
Right.
And that was a part of that culture. And I think like there's definitely still a large group of people, especially in entertainment, and have that power. Again, like talking about that power dynamic, they use that power and that position to like leverage of like, I can do this, and because of my position, I'm not gonna get caught, or I can just pay off whoever type thing, because they don't feel like they can be held accountable.
What about like I guess like we can look at it differently from like a woman predator, you know, type situation. Like, where were they the whole time, right? Because like when you talk about this, like you said, like it has been going on for a long time. Like history will tell you that. You know, I was reading about Gandhi, and one of the things that he did to practice and like make sure that he was disciplined was he would have his followers bring him I think like 13-14-year-old virgins so that he can sleep in between them at night to like practice like his discipline. You know what I mean? To like restrain himself. You know what I mean? So it's like that shit, and like we love this guy.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
Wow.
And then like us being African American, like
No.
I don't even know many black people that even know that much about Gandhi.
Martin Luther King loves Gandhi.
What that got to do with us, the rest of us black people?
I mean, hey,
Martin Luther King
I mean, but
he loved the piece of
there's-
Gandhi.
I was gonna say there's generally no like bad. We generally don't view Gandhi as bad, especially because Martin Luther King heavily based, his ideology behind Gandhi.
I just think that in the history books,
What was women?
there's
I'm
a
still
lot
trying
of
to figure
people
out that part.
who practiced pedophilia who we hold to the highest extent till this day.
And so a question I would have about that is Gandhi comes from a completely different culture. And I wouldn't be surprised if young girls at that age are getting married off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To this day, that's how it goes.
So 13-year-old virgins may very well be like a prized thing. And so him and his people would look at it differently.
Right. But did that make it right?
I mean, who's to say?
And if it would, and if we're gonna give that an okay for that era,
I'm not giving
what?
nothing okay.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
just saying, like, we
not only
can't
an
base
era, it's
our
a-
perspectives based
It's
off
not only
of
an era,
our
it's a culture.
experiences.
And that's been going on since before. They just keeping their culture alive. See, the thing is that, and it happened in America for
Y'all
a
are
brief
confusing
moment.
me.
You
How?
confusing me.
So y'all saying it's okay because it's a part of it.
No one's
not
okay.
saying no
We're
one's
trying to
saying
explain,
What
explain
we're
it to him
saying
that
is if we base it off of our culture, we've already started off on the wrong foot because it's not our culture, right? And so like that point even makes me more interested in his point about the entertainment industry because like whose culture is that really? And how
Yeah,
do we
where did it come
protect
from?
ourselves from assimilating into something
Right.
that we're assuming has roots in things that are harmful?
I like you.
yeah, I feel like, but I don't think it's not. I still don't think like it's not something that's in our culture. I just feel like we probably did away with it in our culture, but trying to do away with it is what has it bubbling up and
Well,
festering.
what does culture have to do with just universal right and wrong?
That's a
I
fact.
think that's the confusing point to me is because culture or not, there has to be a level of moral code.
Well, we
Is-
make
is
it.
there-
Doesn't see culture.
I think the
Our
question
morals
is there a universal right and wrong? Because what's right and wrong
yeah.
to you is complete. It's like us being Americans and like after 9/11, like most people was gung ho about going to war with Iraq, but like I'm sure Iraqi people don't feel that way. Like they wasn't like gung ho. Like that wasn't us. That was this one group of people that were extremists, and so like then it also go. We could take it in the context of typically like the black community in America and like how we're viewed and demonized, like, oh, there's, like they had to try to like make us like savages or whatever.
See, the
Because
reason I say
in
it's
most
not
cases,
culture, I mean, go ahead. I don't mean to cut
no,
you
I'm saying, and in most cases, like people out here, doing dirt, quote unquote, or whatever, it's out of survival. It's not out of necessarily malicious nature all the time. But like from the outside looking in, it's easy if you don't have those circumstances to say, oh, that's wrong. They don't have any morals. They're immoral. What are they doing? They should conduct themselves better than that. And you've never struggled yourself.
I feel like that's high level because we've all been children. This is like a topic where you can relate regardless where you're from. It's not political, it's not economical. It's whether or not a young girl is capable of being in a relationship and pretty much taken out of her home at 14 years old. That to me is an issue that would hit anyone.
I
don't
just
think
feel like
that's
this
based on
generation
culture.
is born off of that though. Everybody grandma done already did that. People are okay. That's not. I don't think the issue becomes how old makes your mental level. Wherever your mental level is, you're 13. That's where you at mentally. Some people are mentally in different places based upon circumstances or the economy that you in.
I used to believe that until I got old, until I got older, and then until I had kids, and I saw, of course we were all kids, but when you have kids, you see what a human being is fresh out. You see how much of an empty vessel a human being is, and all they are is what they see, and all they are is what you teach them.
Yeah, you want to protect the innocence. That's inevitable though. Like
And I think
innocence
that's
is
what
not
she's
gonna
saying.
always be protected. Like she's gonna grow up or he's gonna grow up and you're not going to be there to say, well, what you feel about that person or how you like it is wrong. You can't say that because you were there and you know how it feels. But I do encourage parents to say, I want my child, or try to teach their child. But I don't think there's any, like, well, she too young for that, because you really don't know. Like, I don't think anybody in here could say, I know where that person is. This girl's out here with babies by 17-year-old boys, and she only 16. But were they really ready? And they doing it.
But that's why I think culture matters so much.
Yeah.
Because, like, a 13-year-old in America whose mother is working, she's in a single family home, she's working, the girl's into whatever, right? Is different from someone being brought up from birth. Like, no, at 13, we're going to marry you away. This is what you need to do to
You need to
prepare
learn how to
for
cook, clean,
being, so
prepare for a
she's in
wife.
a different mental state.
Yeah.
And I'm not in a position to say that's wrong if that works for them. I think that's the scale of...
Go ahead.
And just to add on to, it's a difference between that and an adult who's attracted to a 13-year-old or younger than a 13-year-old. It's a difference. That's a culture. That's what they're used to. Like you said, they're raised knowing that, okay, at 13, I'm going to be assigned to the man I'm going to marry and bear children with and take care of, whereas you have, whether it's a man or a woman, adult, saying, I'm attracted to this 10-year-old child. That's a mental, there's something else going on internally with that.
Like, it's not intention to build a family or do anything of that nature. You're just ruining someone and sending them out into possibly doing the same thing, completely a cycle.
And just because, like in my research, because I looked it up too, it's like, you could be a pedophile just from thinking and having that sexual attraction. You don't have to touch the child, and they do different things to help them not go there. They go to therapy, like it's a real mental issue. Whereas being raised in a culture with it is like, hey, that's what we do. So how do we resolve for that mental issue, which my understanding, according to research, there's no cure.
That's the thing. Like what kind of like threw me off was like when I was researching it, like there's a whole movement to normalize like pedophilia, to categorize it as a sexual orientation.
And
and that's not protecting the children at all. You're just throwing them to the wolves. Like, I don't understand.
That defeats the purpose of those
but like
his up and everything.
It's like when I look at the R. Kelly situation, even when I look at him now, like I don't know what's going on with him, but if the allegations are true, which I believe they are, I think he's really sick. Like one of the things that like I noticed about like pedophiles, they like to record that shit, and it's like, this nigga can't stop recording shit.
Can't stop recording.
like it's like that right there lets you know, like, bro, this nigga sick. Like he like, bro, I know I'm doing something.
He was molested. And the cycle continued through all these people. And he even told someone close to him, I don't know why I can't stop. I don't know why. He is sick.
Which
but he's in a place
So
of
does
power.
that create pedophiles?
It could.
Imagine leaving him on the street and this man ain't imagine him not having no money. Imagine it all getting bad and he really close to all of us. Like he around y'all kids and he think different. You don't want him to be walking past you, changing your daughter's diaper in the male's the family bathroom. You don't want him to be around your daughter in school as a janitor. You don't want him to be doing none of that. You want him to be on the sex offender list. You want him to get his life together. You do feel bad for him because his music is great. But I still feel like besides all of that, you got to go ahead and sign up and handle your responsibilities. Because you can't admit that harm onto somebody else. And I believe that you could do anything in this world as long as it don't hurt nobody else. In his case, he did something that caused harm. So once you cause harm, it's just, that's it.
Question, where do you all think that like women being abused is historic, right? Especially at young ages. How has that shaped the society that we live in today, right? Like what type of women are we sending out here with this trauma to be parts of our society, right? To be contributing citizens of our society.
Like you saw
prostitutes.
You saw the two types. You got the ones that they be like, yeah, I'm gonna go learn the little gutter. She gonna go to school. She gonna go hard. She gonna become a strong black woman. She gonna become the one with no kids at 30, at 38. I said this like the second day I was here. I was like, I'm gonna be 38 with no kids and all that, because I feel like so much trauma makes me not even see that. I want kids in the family, but I don't really see it in the next 10 years. I do see myself still working, still taking trips, but I still don't see like a family at home. I just see me fabulous as hell, but with no family. So, like, I think that's what either you get that fabulous black woman with no family, but, you know, she fabulous and she can take care of her, you know, other people. Yeah. She hard to everybody else. They don't know what's wrong with her. And she was a prostitute at one point in her life. That's the prostitute.
I don't know.
That's
I don't think they all become.
But, you know, the prostitute typically get her life together.
Hey, you duck that point. Hold on.
Right, wait. Who was just saying? Not me.
I don't know.
I feel like it's overall countering the progress of us as a culture. And if we go specific to black women, like, we're too busy trying to heal from trauma to even focus on the things that other cultures are doing.
Yeah.
It's unfair, especially as our young girls. We have to work extra hard just to give them a vision of being successful before they even know who they want to be. And then they have to deal with, oh, so-and-so touched me. Oh, I can't tell so-and-so, because it's all these thoughts that are unnecessary before they even know who they are.
That's true.
Yeah, like, as a father, like, of two girls, like, my main mission is, like, yo, get them to adulthood without them ever having to say, someone touched me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I could do that, like, that's something I could brag about. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, ain't nobody, I made sure that I protected you well enough to where, like, ain't nobody, you know what I mean? And, like, in this country where, like, you gotta think about it, like, there's races of us that was created off of rape.
Yeah.
And when we talk about, like, rape culture, that's rape culture / that's American culture.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, I, like, as a black man, like, I look at like, and I'm gonna be completely honest, like, I look at the R. Kelly situation and I be like, yeah, that nigga bogus, punish him. But in the back of my mind, I'd be like, but what about all these other niggas that done did shit?
Yes.
That, like, you know, what about all these, like, even with the Bill Cosby shit, it was like, what about all these white niggas who did some shit that y'all, like, act like ain't do nothing?
I said that.
And motherfuckers will be like, you know, I wouldn't say it on social media, because then motherfuckers will get you and be like, yo, but nigga,
This gonna go on social media.
But you know what? Bill Cosby, you know, they talked about him. He was out there, Hugh Hefner back in his young days, you know, chilling. And the thing is, black men know they ain't who culture is that? That ain't your culture to do no shit like that. But you say, hey, I'm with them, they fucking young girls, I'm gonna fuck a young girl. He doing coke, I'm gonna do coke. Like,
I mean, what you mean?
why you want it to be your culture? I don't remember reading about that in my culture. That's why I said it ain't. Like, I don't remember reading about black men raping young girls and doing that in our culture.
Hugh Hefner wasn't raping anyone.
Are you serious?
Do you know
So
that?
let's carry on, because I want to finish my point before you interrupt me about what Hugh Hefner wasn't doing. Like, you was in the room with him. Who knows where you was at?
You can't assume the man was raping if you don't. Like, there's never been any allegations.
The point is, like, black men need to, in our community, I feel like y'all need to lead instead of following. So if you want to dispute that with me, by all means do so, but I can't dispute it with you, because I'm gonna stand firm on that. Just because you see white people doing something doesn't mean you should do it. And when your money gone, you don't have no white friends to throw money at you for this, that, and the third, like they do. Harvey Weinstein, all them.
That's too blanket.
And that's not too blank. That's just okay. I like to take accountability. I don't like to sit there and tell myself, hey, I did something to some young girl. But you know, white people was doing it too. I shouldn't have no consequence. I'm all about me. Black men need to be all about them. You don't need to do that. You just don't. Just because somebody else did it and got away with it, don't mean you need to do it, is all I'm saying. It ain't great to do anyways. It's not something to pick up as a habit. Like, I'm doing this because they doing it, and I shouldn't go to jail because, no, just don't go that way.
Nobody's saying that Bill Cosby shouldn't have went to jail. Nobody's saying that R. Kelly shouldn't go to jail. We're just saying, like, if you're gonna prosecute them and go this, like, people are going the extra mile to prosecute these guys, but they're not going the extra mile for their white counterparts.
Yeah.
And that's just like
it's affecting the circulation of money.
I just feel
That's
like you
all
gotta
that
have
is.
money.
I
Everybody
also
talking
think-
about have
I
money.
think that argument is played out because, like, the R. Kelly situation has been going on for years.
Thank
right?
you.
Bill Cosby's case was years before
Thank
he
you.
got prosecuted and before he ended up in jail. Harvey Weinstein, all of this stuff is just coming out.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he's not going to get held accountable, but we need to remember that when we first saw the R. Kelly tape, he wasn't held accountable
Not at
for
all.
a while, and then he went through the whole courts case and got that got dismissed, and now he's going through it again, right? So we cannot compare. And I think what she's trying to say is, why as Black people are we trying to allow racism to define what our morals are? Why are we trying to allow racism to define who we are as a people, as a community?
Yeah.
That's the
do y'all
question.
feel like we're doing that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do.
That was very strong. Yeah, like
Okay, all right. Okay, so X gonna go. Amina, you got something to say? Who got something to say after Amina?
I was
Okay,
she said
so
it for me.
X, Amina, Keela, Rachel, and then
I definitely would agree with that. That because, especially like growing up, like it goes back to that whole issue of representation. How many Black people have you seen in positions of power or affluence when majority of your role models are white men? So like when you start getting to that level, like one, you don't have that many people that look like you at that level to follow or show you like, hey, don't do that, bro. Like do this, this is how we do this. So like if that's your only like teacher or like pathway that you see, they're gonna take the easiest pathway most of the time. And that that relates across the board, not even just with that. Like you can make that argument about the issue of gun violence in America in general. Like, since what, 1920s, 30s, watching cowboys and Indians shoot each other and kill each other, we've been taught and like programmed from the beginning to think this way and view them in that manner. Oh, they're the picture of success generally.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a dangerous thing to do when we kind of start bringing up race when it comes to moral code. And the reason I say that is because it's very deflective. It kind of brings this middleman into play where it's like, he's not that wrong because he's just doing what the white men are doing. When in actuality, lust is of the flesh. All of that stuff is innate in a human being. So if we go there, then we're kind of deflecting. And I think it's almost taking some of the blame off of the person's choice to do what they will.
Excuses.
And I don't think I think it's not safe.
Thank you.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
I know.
I feel like when the law was created, you weren't even thought of. Not in the sense of like in your mother's womb, but in the sense of you weren't even worth to a human being. For real. So you can't expect the law to change now to be in your favor. You can't think it's unfair because it's always been unfair. You've always had to run the rat race, and you've always had to be one step ahead, be better, be early, stay late, do better work, and still be skipped over. And it's like when you get to the top, they have more people in power who would rather throw you under the bus so that they can keep themselves out of jail in that sense. And it's like you broke down barriers to get where you got, and yet you stopped so that you could be a part of. And like, I mean, what you stopped so that you could be a part of, and then once you made yourself a part of, how did it feel? Like you lost your identity. I feel like we begin to lose our identity when we try to fit in with that of which we were never meant to be a part of, to be included with to begin with.
My father is from West Africa, and I'm not trying to say that everybody's crazy, but the stories I hear about the political regime in West Africa, them overthrowing the government, the violence, the diamonds, my father's from Sierra Leone, I'm really starting to look at stuff from a global perspective. We can't continue to blame us emulating someone else.
But
it's a human issue.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, my brain farted for a little bit, but just for a little bit. I'm gonna be just, a little bit transparent, a little bit, because when I came here, it was the biggest culture shock.
Where are you from?
Trinidad.
Okay.
The biggest culture shock of my life, because I grew up seeing people that look like me in power.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? I grew up and I saw me. It's only when I came here that I didn't see me, and to me that was a problem. That meant I had to get there so
We talked
other
about
people
this the other day.
know what that looked like.
Mm.
It was only till I got a neighbor. I'm like, okay, this is a black neighbor. I'm gonna see a black guy in the deli.
No.
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 I didn't see him in
Yeah.
the deli, and a little bit
Yeah.
I already felt weird because I knew he was looking at me.
Yeah.
I knew he was looking at me because, you know, that was the biggest culture shock for me. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
why y'all don't have nobody that look like y'all
Yeah.
in office?
Yeah.
As a lawyer, as a doctor, why isn't the media covering this? And this is me at 7.
Yeah, that's crazy because when we met last week, you were telling me about because you're from South Africa, and you were telling me, Labo was telling me about in Africa they see people looking like them oppressing them. So coming to America, it's a different type of perspective that you develop when you see like racism is it has a different face in this country than it does abroad, right? Because abroad we know who's like pulling the strings, but their hand is more hidden. You know, Empress, what you just gonna say?
I don't think I got anything. I think everybody else pretty much gets my fact. You know,
I
there's no
wanna add-
blame game when it comes to that.
There's something about power and like seeing people who look like you oppress you. I think we see it in a lot of funny ways because we don't have a lot of power. So like when you ask for that extra barbecue sauce in the McDonald's window, 45 cents, or like, you know what I'm saying? I can't do that for you because my boss, you know what I'm saying? But like really somebody really just want to exert power. Like
They're
you
like,
shoot
I
a
wanna
video
get
on
you.
the CTA and then like, what you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I think power dynamics.
Yeah, that's
I think another factor is we're desensitized to a lot of it. So like we can feel a way, but the next day it's kind of like, phew, and then another thing happens, and another thing happens, and the same thing with this whole topic. Like it hurts, and a lot of things we want to have a solution to, but it's like we're so desensitized, we don't really have a real solution.
Yeah, because we're told
Yeah.
not to, you know, we're not allowed to feel. We have to just let it allow and get over it to get through the next day.
Right.
But this whole pedophilia thing is like kind of annoying that we even have to choose because he has money. We even talking about what should happen to him because if this was your homie that did this to your sister, friend, or little girl, you would be like, tell his ass to go. He been doing this for so long, but because he got
Somebody
money,
got at his head already.
yeah.
But I don't think that we're saying. I can speak for myself.
I do think that from my interpretation that we're going at, well, those white people did it, and so R. Kelly, you know, he getting a bad or worse treatment. When in fact, I'm still wondering, like, who cares about the treatment of somebody that harms other people? Like, that should be broad. It should not be, well, he black, so he should be. No, we should make it broad in our black communities that our black girls are important.
Yes.
It's not. He was maybe, no, he was wrong. Like, it's so many black girls that's going to watch this and going to be like, you know, I want somebody to stand firmly on how I feel.
Yeah.
Because you are important.
But my thing is this, right? No one's saying he should not be punished. This situation, with it being one of the main things talked about in the media, it opens the door for so many conversations to be had. And I think that what we need to do as African Americans is start controlling our own narrative. So like, yeah, we'll talk about sexual abuse in our community. You know what I'm saying? If this situation opens the door for us to have that conversation. But what other doors does it open? In my opinion, a door that I know white media isn't gonna open is the historical demonization of the black male's image, right? So it's like not, and maybe this is the wrong situation to bring that up. But like, yo, Lifetime shot a documentary on R. Kelly not because they cared about black women. They shot that documentary because it made them what? HBO shooting a documentary about Michael Jackson that's coming out next week, not because they care about black people, because it's making them what? You know what I'm saying? So it's like people will monetize black issues just for financial gain when there's no real authentic concern. and we'll take those opportunities. And like I'm like, yo, I'm all for it. But I'm saying like when we take those opportunities, let's also control the narrative and address other things as well, and not like penalize people for bringing up other shit that motherfuckers want to talk about.
So I think
that's all I'm asking
about, like the narrative, and that's one thing, right? But I think all we really can do is speculate, because I think, and that's why conversations like this come up, and it goes to the next thing and the next thing. Because I think to fully take accountability for it, we have to be able to enact justice. And in situations like this, like we're expecting justice from a system that I believe we all in part already don't believe is going to give us justice. So we just end up talking about things ad nauseum, and then it can turn back to the system and be like, well, why aren't these, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't control either or.
But I still feel like when he did what he did a long time ago, we deflected. We found something else to talk about because there's other things more important to talk about. And though that may be true, that's why he didn't go then. People showed up to the court actually not wanting him to go. A woman just bailed him out. Like, at the end of the day, people could say, oh, I want to talk about something different, but it's still going to be people out here that's focused on making sure that certain people get to go and do whatever they want to do. And as much as you want to deflect and you want to change the subject and you want to talk about something different like everybody else, it's still girls out there who going to go to sleep at night, still going to dream about it, still want to talk about it. So I can't agree with you, and I don't want to, because I still want to care for those girls. Because my conversation can't be all about Harvey Weinstein and all of them, because Harvey Weinstein had a slew of documentaries, and I posted it, and somebody was like, but that's BBC. That's the BBC network. That's the free network. You don't need cable for that. You need cable for Lifetime. Half of y'all black people ain't even got cable to watch the Lifetime documentary. So when people be like, oh, well, it was on Lifetime, who's watching that? White people. They trying to demonize him for white people because they know already we going to do what we doing right here. Well, and the other stuff happened. So let's just really talk about that, because all them other people been raping people for so long. And then we could just go ahead and talk about Chris Brown and all of them too. Like, at the end of the day, we don't need to deflect in our community. You either going to stand on something and you're going to say, or you're going to be wrong or whatever, but I don't believe in that neutral shit. All I'm in between shit, that's bullshit. You know what you want to say. You really want to say, nah, fuck that, he don't need to go to jail, da-da-da-da. But I really want to say, motherfuckers need to be disciplined. Ain't no change of subject.
No, I'm not saying
that. People should know, but I'm saying in the conversation about R. Kelly G, the conversation don't need to be.
Okay, we got 30 seconds. Then
and we gonna wrap it up, because at the end of the day, you don't change it. Deflection is fine if it's not a topic everybody wants to talk about. But if it's something that's important in our community, why do we have to deflect? Why do we have to say let's talk about it? Why? Why can't we just talk about that and let it be that we all agree he needs to go through some shit and agree to disagree?
I think we are agreeing that, but I'm saying if we're gonna milk the situation, what else does this spark that we can also talk about? Like what?
What John is saying is a both and, right? It's let's acknowledge that this is a situation, but then let's not turn a blind eye to how white people still keep reaping a profit off of our pain, because that's a reality, So yes, we got to keep talking about the ills of our society. I'm not saying let's not talk that R. Kelly doesn't deserve to rot in jail, because personally I think he does.
Exactly.
Right? But there is the reality of white people are profiting off of that narrative. That's a reality.
But I still feel like that's what we say over everything, though. To me, that's like everything that happens.
But now who's deflecting?
I'm not deflecting. That's true. Everything we say,
anyway,
it goes that way.
If we want to control our narrative, then we need to put out our own information. Why don't we expose ourselves as black people? You have Tyler Perry, who owns a whole studio. If he could have put out the docuseries. You have Oprah, who, no offense to her, goes over to Africa and does things for those African girls there. But there are girls here in America where she grew up still suffering from certain things that she went through as a child too. Maya Angelou included, God rest her soul. But it's like, we have the money, we have the platform. Expose ourselves so that we can reap off our own damn.
Thank you.
Do we have the money though? Because I think even the people that we look at that got a lot, that have a high net worth, have a lot of assets, and I'm not sure how much liquid cash they have to throw around at these issues that we care about. So
my question to you all, before we move on, is money what we even really need?
No, you just need to put that on YouTube, and you're a black person on a black YouTube channel. They could have profited off for having them girls do that. Oprah could have, like you said, that could have been free into something just like this, and I'm sure anybody would have been glad to host it for it's the way we doing stuff. Those people could do it too. They could have definitely profited off of that R. Kelly situation. If it's about white people profiting off of it, because after we profit off of it, what's the next conversation about it?
That is a strange thing to debate. Who's making money off of that? I mean, that I don't know. The issue seems a little bit bigger than to discuss who's making money off, because entertainment is gonna sell
Regardless.
I mean, it's just
I
entertainment.
mean, it was a big thing about the victims after the docu-series aired, having their own airing of whatever it was, like live videos and all this stuff.
They was
And
going around making
their
money.
energies was weird or different, and a lot of people was blaming it on the money and questioning how much they were getting, and specifically his ex-wife. Just it was weird. It was
It's
weird.
getting weird.
Okay, so moving on. What y'all want to talk about? Do y'all want to talk about
Whichever one comes next.
the 18-year? It's
The
been
last one.
the last one, the hyper-sexualization of black bodies.
Yes.
Why is black sexuality often demonized?
Yes.
I was low key just talking about that, but what do you have to say? Over there talking about some yes.
No, I just feel like the second question we pretty much already touched on. Like, are black people, are 18-year-olds really an adult? Like, and we really kind of touched on that. Like, depending on what you go through, it could be your mental state. That's why I felt like we would just be.
But
saying
not in
what
the
we already
sense of
said.
people getting kicked out their homes by their parents, black parents, thinking
Yeah.
you grown at 18. Come on,
Yeah.
get the fuck out. And you like, well,
I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a producer call here.
Oh.
We're gonna talk about the hypersexualization of black bodies just because it makes sense off of what we've
What
just
we
been talking
said, yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And it feeds into the narrative of rape and pedophilia within
Yeah.
our own communities.
Absolutely.
Okay, I've got something to say right off the top.
Mm-hmm.
When I was young, I played basketball. I was always in basketball shorts, t-shirt. I wasn't real cute. And to this day, I feel like that was a blessing. Because when you start dressing sexual as a black, even then I can remember like older men honking at me. You ladies, when we
That's uncomfortable.
it gets
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
uncomfortable.
Even in basketball shorts and a t-shirt, you can walk down the street and get honks. They will stop their car.
Pull up on the
They
curb.
would do that more as a child than you as a grown woman.
Yep.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, I'm thankful that I wasn't the little girl who was in pageants, but even still in hooping shorts. It was crazy. It's so dangerous. Can you guys speak to any like personal?
yes.
I remember.
It don't happen. I'm 22 and I used to walk up the street and it would be looking like a lot of suitable cab rides. But now that I'm older, ain't no more cab rides. Like ain't no more of that. Like I'm like, what the hell going on?
That seems like that's like predatory.
It happens.
Like, because it's like when you're older, you look like oh shit, she might treat
She
my
might
ass.
have some
But when you're younger, they like yo, I probably can.
She
like,
gonna go get
She see this. She see
She
this
don't know
car.
no better.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
I ain't gonna lie, like a few days ago, I was on 47 coming from the gym.
Somebody tried to get you in
and
that
this
car,
older
bro.
lady, nah, she
He
was on
tried to
foot.
scoop you up.
Look, she slid
gonna
on
walk
me
you
like,
home.
hey, handsome. He was like, what you doing out here this late at night?
Shucky
She
ducky.
said, come on, do something with me. I said,
do something with me.
What?
I'm like, I'm good. I'm waiting on my Uber. So like, but I say that to say like I was in no like physical threat. You know what I mean? Like it
You
was
didn't feel like
right, but I felt how weird that felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think to
And we
have
get
an
it all
extra
the time.
layer of going through it all the time and like
Being
the physical
young when it
presence
happened.
of
When it comes
men
to
and
children,
possibly
it's
being
awkward.
multiple men, like
I used to purposely dress like a guy just to
Same.
get through the day.
Same.
Like, I didn't even do the hooping thing. Like, I used to purposely wear baggy clothes and dress like a guy just so that wouldn't happen to me. And it still happened to me. I used to wear the
It
big
doesn't
hoodie
matter.
Dude, I
and the
mean,
saggy
You know, it
Like-
happens to boys
and
too.
it's,
Like
it still happened.
Okay,
It
you-
used to happen
and then hold on.
every day.
Go ahead. You.
I have a 3-year-old son, and he's coming to his own, feeling himself. And there's been times where there's been older women, oh, you're so handsome,
sexy.
and then they start talking, oh, he's gonna have the ladies, he's gonna do that, and I'm like, okay, you can joke like that, but I'm his mother, and I'm thinking about how that, like, even, you know, kids are sensitive, they feel energies, they feel all of that stuff, so you got him feeling a whole new energy, and he's 3, so why should he even be thinking or anything
Okay.
like that?
That's how you get the smelling yourself vibe.
I
right
think
there.
that's okay, but
No, it's
what's
not
this-
okay.
Okay, I think like when we're talking about hypersexualization, we have to talk about the history behind why black people were hypersexualized to begin with.
Yeah.
Coming from slavery,
Talk your
honestly.
shit.
You know, when we were taken, and then we were taken to the Caribbean. That's where most slaves were taken to first. So that they would learn how to become slaves. That's where they
say what it is.
Yeah. And then they would bring them to America, and they would be sold, and they would make sure that you were naked, and they would look at your bill, including your genital area, and that's how they would match you up with bigger women. And they made it seem as if you were being hypersexual, but yet you were being forced to be breeders. To be breeders, to create bigger babies. You know, not only that, we have to also talk about how black men were raped. It was called breaking a buck.
Yeah, buck breaking.
Right.
You know,
the most masculine
guy, and they would rape them, and they would legit have parties. I read this.
Yeah.
They would have slave owners would call other slave owners over to their home so that they could watch two of their slaves have sex.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that is like sex in itself is like it for me. I think a lot of people, it's always something that starts mentally, right? And then like so reading Frances Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers.
Yeah, speak up. I gotta hear
Reading
you.
Frances Cress Williams' book, The ISIS Papers, and she talks about like the psychology behind the male anatomy, the like black male anatomy, and like what that inferiority complex is for white society, white men, and like black women being like the mothers of earth and all civilization, and so like your breasts being like what nurtures babies and keeps things going, and like the infatuation with these things that are psychologically attracted to even before we like as men or whoever like fetishizing them as a sexual thing. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, to add to that, like a lot in slavery, they couldn't even nurse their own kids. Right. They would make a slave get pregnant so that they could have a wet nurse, and the slave would give milk to their child before they could even give milk to their own child. Like
malnourishment.
So just pretty much just like objectifying black bodies.
Yeah.
Black bodies
is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Black bodies being, I mean we do it in internally, and then I guess like historically it was done to us externally as well by our slave masters. Man, I'm just sitting here and I'm just listening to you guys, and I'm like, yo, women be going through it, and I like empathize with y'all, but like,
take on the butt though.
I'm probably gonna say some bullshit. I'm just thinking like how different women's experiences are in comparative terms to like us as men, like, and I guess my question is like, is this something that like we have to just like is it just a part of life? Like men, of course you'll never get 100% of anything, right? But like men, it's natural for men to pursue women.
That's nature.
That's nature, right?
Right.
So like you won't get like every man is not gonna know how to properly do that.
Okay.
So I don't have any answers.
Let him finish.
It got hella real.
Now I want to see.
No, I got it. Trust me.
No, you ain't got it.
So like, every man is not going to know how to properly do that. So if we're like, I'm raising kids right now, what is my responsibility to do? Who can I better teach? My kids or these niggas out here that they're gonna encounter? So my question is like, how do we prepare young girls, and if you got young men that you're raising, how do we prepare them to go out here into society and deal with each other?
Teaching them their worth and knowing that that worth is what's going to match them if they hold that standard.
Yeah, literally just had a conversation today with a sister who has a 13-year-old son. And she said she caught her son on the phone with a young girl at 2 a.m. And she snapped, reached out to the girl and told her, I'm not going to allow my son to disrespect you by talking to you at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's nonsense.
How is that a
Like,
problem?
No, you don't.
What is wrong with
Because
it?
it's the
That's
start.
the problem with today.
But here's the deal.
It's like
It's
we
the
hold
start.
human beings at too.
What
we
you
got
was
too
talking
many
about at 2 a.m. when you was
expectations.
on the
Bruh,
phone?
Right.
now you supposed to.
You know what he's
Now you
talking about.
supposed to.
But
You want to talk about
But
math
It's
homework?
not so.
I'm telling you.
Come on, like that. That's why, like when you were like, when you were like, yo, she said my son gonna have all the girls. And I'm like,
Okay, but
damn,
that's like,
like.
what kind of mindset are you
Like, you got
so
this,
jet-
like,
like
play
is
on
your goal to
mentality,
get
like-
a body, or is it to achieve something, like, and then get to a point where you have something to bring to, like, does it have to be so carnal and so physical?
Right. It's what
I
you
don't know.
project.
Something I want to add
There
is
is
like
something
the,
wrong
the,
with
the
that.
I don't
concept
think
of
nothing
where
wrong
is
with
the
it.
meaning?
Let him speak, because he
And-
normally be telling
I
it.
don't
You know,
think-
it-
the
help your brother out.
so like
You ain't gotta help me out. I'm gonna keep it 100.
I think
now.
something that's interesting
Calm
is like
down.
environment. Like when we had this conversation, right? So like I went to an HBCU on Florida A&M, and like we would post up and like just wait on women to walk by,
Y'all
or
can't
like
call
you
them,
might
Lord Jesus.
right,
I hate
right, and then so you grow older, and then like you realize that this is a, but also it throws us off sometimes. I think to his side, and I'll get back, is because some women don't have a problem with it. They like it. And I think that's what he was saying about in terms of pursuing. I think some men go too far. I think some men are rude. I think some men are disrespectful.
think that's what
and
he
right
was
out
saying.
scared.
That's exactly
You
what I'm
making it,
saying.
you clean up.
But what I can
Like,
also say,
you're not
no,
gonna
let
get
me finish,
100% of
let me
anything.
finish.
Let him finish.
What I can also say about her point in terms of like the energy and like what you're trying to bring, I also can't say that in those moments in my life I was the most pure in my intentions, right? And so if I have a
Yes,
daughter,
you were.
nah.
No.
Yes, you were.
Pure in the sense he knew what he wanted,
What do you
but like
mean?
His intentions
not
was to
the
yeah.
satisfy
sense, like,
I don't
himself.
think
It
I was
wasn't
flirting
about
like that.
And so were hers. She was on the phone too.
But that's
What are we
guiding a
talking
13-year-old
about?
mind of what you need, like
So the
what you actually need over what you want, like
Yeah.
Right.
you know,
And I don't
it's
get what
guiding
the-
a
but you know-
youth mind on how to be
I think
in society.
I don't know. We can't
think
police nature.
No, but I think
Yeah,
that goes
That's
back
not
to
nature.
You can't
That's what
police.
separates
You
us.
can't
That
police
goes back to
interactions between
pedophilia.
a
That's
young
like
boy and a
saying
young
the
girl.
person that's being a pedophile
They teach
because they
values.
feel that way.
Right.
We can't tell them no. Like that's the same thing.
Talking
You
on
know
the
what I'm
phone
saying?
is
It's
in
all
nature,
violent.
though. Like, that's like literally
That's
something.
apples
But
and
what
oranges.
you just said,
No,
we can't
you can't
police nature.
nature.
What is a pedophilia? What is pedophilia?
We can't.
That's a
not
mental illness.
No, I don't know if I
Being
believe that.
being on the phone at 2 a.m. is not.
You want to
right.
antagonize.
But you
Are you gonna switch it up?
I think no. I think the thing is
It's a
like
sickness.
it's
a sickness.
Mental
No,
illness.
but like
a
saying
sickness,
you
yeah.
can't police nature, like that's
not
the difference.
contagious,
That's what
so.
separates human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
They operate purely off of instinct and urge
good
and
point.
desire and passion
Yeah.
and need for
Yes.
survival. The difference with us being human is that we
You're
can
not
say
raising your
like,
daughter to be an animal.
yeah, I'm not raising my kids to strictly go off of their impulse.
Yeah.
Because impulse will
Right.
get you in trouble
Exactly.
and put
You
you in
just
in a predicament that you
Talked
don't need
about
to be in.
Gandhi and how he
Exactly.
wanted to make sure he was disciplined
Exactly.
by having 13-year-old girls lay next to him
Exactly.
to keep him
That 2
disciplined.
a.m. phone call can end up a 2 a.m. meetup and then ends up being a baby born at 2 a.m. Like,
Conceive.
Oh, wait a second. We back to this 2 a.m.
I don't know.
He said, what's wrong with that? And I'm just, that's echoing
I
in
don't
my
know.
mind.
I think
feel
that you
like there is
can't. You
something wrong
can't.
with
Like I get it. You know.
Do you?
First of all,
I
it's
get it.
2 a.m. and it's a school night. You
So,
know,
so all right. So everybody's up in here
First of all-
talking. Y'all have never stayed up till 2 a.m. on
And
the
no
phone.
one's saying it was right.
We're not
No
saying
one's saying it was
We're
right.
We're not saying it's right.
At all.
See, people was acting
Hold
too
on.
perfect
And
up in
it's
this
the
motherfucker.
start. It's the start
What is
of.
he saying right now, bro?
I kind of feel like that was a stretch with her being upset about him being on the phone at 2, because we can't stop human nature in the sense of boys liking girls. Like,
No, tell
We
me
talked
to
her
write
at
it
7
down.
p.m.
What
But
time
here's the
it is.
thing.
the person
Yo, I had this girl.
Understand something.
All right, hold on.
girl
All right, we finna.
in
All right, we
college
gotta.
that used to check
so,
me so hard.
Kim, then you.
Like I used to be so infatuated with her. Like I walk up on her, she'd be like, "Yeah, pull up your pants. I'm not gonna talk to you. Pull your pants up." Called her after 11. Like we was just at a. You was out at like 10 something.
Yeah.
And I called you, and it was like, "Nah, you're not gonna call me." This late."
Yeah.
And like, I always had respect for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what her mother, the child's mother, was trying to instill in that other young lady.
Right.
Like, don't let certain
Go ahead.
That's what I was
You got
saying
something
right
to say?
there.
I'll go ahead.
That's what I was
Okay.
saying right there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's because we all know what's going on at 2 in the morning. You feel me? We all know where that conversation is going. That's what we're thinking. We're not saying that we've never been on the phone at 2 a.m.
Right.
Yeah, we have.
That's why we know.
Yeah, exactly. We have. And it goes back to what he just said, because that was me. You would see me at a party, and only certain people can call my phone after a certain time and I
Setting a
pick up.
standard.
Only certain,
I
very
think-
few. And that'd be very close friends, like I said, family.
You know what?
And
I'ma
family.
say it.
If
Women
you ringing
be-
my phone after 11,
You
I'll
got to
barely
say,
know I'm
nah,
answering my
say it.
phone.
I'm finna say it. Women be full of shit, bro.
It's not that.
Because y'all will be like, yo, you can't do this, but let y'all like that nigga. He can call your ass at 4 o'clock.
Well, don't that make
It
perfect
depends
sense?
on if
though?
we like him or not.
It's the
That
wake
don't
up
sound
call.
like it don't make sense to
Reminded
me.
me,
Like you would think that you would want somebody to call you that you actually like at 2 in the morning or whatever versus somebody you just
That
met
nigga
that you
can
don't
wake
even
you
know
up.
I'm gonna be.
or
I got
whatever at 2
something.
in the morning. So
I feel like if we already at that level, then yes, it's that rapport. We got it.
right.
If you pursuing me, baby, I gotta set a standard. And if I set it too low, you gonna go even lower because we all know y'all don't. You kill your own. Like you said, you don't get 100% of everything. But like, so it's like if we already have that understanding of certain things, then you respect me on that level. But starting out, no, I gotta check you real quick.
I'm embarrassed because I never cared about that shit. I mean, because I wasn't having nasty phone conversations at 2. I was silly as hell on the phone. I was asking, what do you like, or who's in the back. I wasn't
I was on
having
the party line.
I just think that
I ain't gonna lie. A lot of 2 a.m. conversations was
I was
like
on the party
gang as
line.
fuck. It was like,
It was
yeah,
definitely.
it was
I stayed on the
everybody.
phone with my best
Three-way,
friend for
three-way,
that
three-way.
long.
You
Yeah.
Not back in my days.
I just don't. I don't know.
It was-
We are focusing on a conversation that has nothing to do with the topic. Hyper-sexualization
Yeah.
of Black bodies.
True.
So like moving. So like I guess like the real question. The segue is like, I guess the real question with what your friend was going through is how old was the her son?
13.
Okay.
Oh no, that's too.
All right. So
Super.
one of the questions we have on here is 18. Is an 18-year-old really an adult, right? So like, what age is like really where? What age does a person have to reach for you to really like consider them like, yo, you are like mature enough to
Talk on the phone at 2 a.m.
I like
And
that.
all of that
But
shit.
I don't know if we
And all of
finished
that.
about the propaganda and media with the hypersexualization.
Say
Because
that one
then
more
she's
time.
the hypersexualization and the versus correlating with the propaganda in the media. Because she started talking about slavery, and then y'all got to this 2 a.m. phone call. But if we go back to it, I think the best way to stop hypersexualization on black men and black women is, for one, we have the media outlets and the platforms to not represent dark-skinned women as overly sexualized ghetto women and light-skinned women as super sultry, sexy,
Trophy.
not that smart but ready to go. She down for everything, ditzy but fabulous. Like they don't have to be displayed that way. They should be displayed in the everyday characters that we truly are. And with those platforms, that's a good way to stop hypersexualization in this media, because the white channels, of course, they do cultural appropriation. So maybe if we just go that route and just do non-stop putting out positive stuff about ourselves, they won't have nothing else to take negative to put out. If you have nothing with positivity, that means if you give love, you can only receive love.
Gotcha. So
So you feel like colorism plays a role?
And hypersexualization, I do. I really feel like
I agree.
black women, darker skinned women, if you are a slim build and you're not one of the darker skinned women that's thick bodied, you kind of overlooked. But if you're a light skinned woman and you slim build, you're not overlooked. It's kind of it's kind of weird, but I noticed it, like chocolate thick girl and slim light skinned girl, and it's like, so you you do like slim women, but you like them in this color. But you do like thick women, but you like them as long as they look like what's been already put in the media. She got this big bodacious booty, big boobs. And I mean, all of that is but we do have a lot of those black women. We have black women of every size that should be appreciated.
Yeah.
That's deep, because if you think of like what dominant culture media feeds us as the ideal sexiness before your Kim Kardashians who had surgery.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another day. But it is that slim, you know, the supermodel build, right?
Yeah.
Where you literally like the boyish body.
Yeah.
The white blonde hair,
Yeah.
blue eyes. So
And it started changing over time. Like Marilyn Monroe was that thick white girl that was like, even though we had Eartha Kitt, all the people she look up to,
Right.
we had them, but it was like she thick as hell and she white. She wasn't even that damn thick.
She wasn't.
But she was lighter than the normal darker thick woman, so it was more like, okay, this is new to us, but it's really not. Like, like
So
I think that's an interesting question, because when I was in college, I used to see women all the time that had like pictures of Marilyn Monroe, and I always it was never men. It was always women, and I always thought that was interesting. And I asked my mom, and she said it was basically because it was like this rags to riches,
sexuality,
this poor
she
white
exude
girl, and then, like,
liberation.
she played her finesse on the president, and
Femininity,
like, rose
power.
from nothing. But like, yeah, that always weirded me out.
But then
because
you
it was
got
never
Eartha
men.
Kitt, who said what she said to that lady president. You know, she actually took strides in the community, and people don't have her picture everywhere. She not physically as beautiful what other people think
Who
is
is this?
beautiful. Eartha Kitt. And she has that soft voice, and she do have that face where it look like she just like fuck you, but she's very, it's worth putting on your wall though to me. And so like it be hard. The industries get harder too when you a woman and you
But
want to
there's
industry.
so many layers that are ignored in a black woman, because like with Eartha Kitt, she had a lot of like interviews and things where she was saying profound things, but she was so saucy with it that she was dope. Like she was really dope, and she was like a sex kitten at that. So when she opened her mouth, it made her even more sexy about it. But it's because she was so intelligent and she was so about her own with it. And there's a lot of women in general and black women that carry themselves like that you don't have to look at physically to be attracted to them, but we don't get that.
That's
level
Grace
yet.
Jones. Like, she's internationally beautiful. And I love her because I hear so much of her when I walk in rooms. I like her a lot. But then I noticed, like, I was ashamed when people would be like, yo, you look like Grace Jones. I'd be like, why the fuck you trying to tell me about that? What the fuck you mean? Like, for a minute, it was like, don't do that to me. Because I already grew up with people saying, your build is too muscular. And I don't even work out. I do now. But at that time, growing up, I wasn't working out. It was just like, your build's too muscular, your jawline's too strong, this, that. And now modeling, this is great for this is great for this. Everything is great. Not having a low metabolism works in my favor. But Grace Jones is not somebody that people say is beautiful. The first thing they say is, she edgy. She look real eclectic. She's real cool and all of that. And I'm like, so where's the gorgeous, the beautiful, she's sexy, where's those words for those type of women?
What I say is, I think something that leads all of that is capitalism, right? And so I think what's important is that we instill into our children and into us that like you're beautiful no matter what, and like whatever it is in you that makes you beautiful and unique. Because 9 times out of 10, the people, like, that's just a cycle of like, we have this slot. What are we gonna fill it with? Oh, this sells the fastest.
Right.
And continuously teaching people
Right.
this
Just like-
formula.
And if they don't have a slot for you, they just talk about you real rough.
And in one breath, like, we can't say, man, I was walking down the street and I hate when niggas like try to stop and talk to me and like, I have to throw on clothes to hide that. But then we'll go into a modeling agency and be open and willing to objectify ourselves.
Yeah, that's real.
Well, let me tell you why you wrong right there. Okay. Off the ball game. Right there. First of all, as a person, because as much as that sound cute, if it's my career and you going somewhere to objectify yourself for whatever art, your rap music, all that, you took your shirt off on stage, you feeling good. That's you kind of objectifying yourself. And I'm a model, so if I go in and I'm just feeling it and they like, yo, you know what I'm saying, give me a little shoulder movement and I want to take my little strap off, I will do so. You know, because that kind of blocked me from doing shoots with designers who wanted me to be more explicit. Designers who got things that could take me another place. And I'm like, well, you know, people out here talking about that. Like, well, you know, if I also want to not have men all up on me like this because of what I went through, I'm trying to find out how to be sexy without people blaming me. So when people tell me that, it's like, nah, that's bullshit, because I'm just walking up the street and I was 13, 14. and I'm 22 and you don't want to talk to me now.
Yeah.
So again, that is not a good argument because at 22, ain't nobody trying to holler at me. Ain't nobody. They thinking like she grown, she done learned it already. She ain't finna go. But when I was younger, they all took the chance because they thought that they could impress and be impressionable on my mind frame. So now that I'm an adult, modeling to me is a strong way for me to stand on who I am and show my beauty to people who would be like, androgyny is not beautiful, especially the black people, because it's not talked about in our homes. A lot of black girls are low-key androgynous as fuck and they don't even know it. You low-key you do love yourself, but you got people out here telling you don't look as curvy as a typical black woman, or your face ain't as soft as that mulatto black woman, or the hair ain't as loose. You gotta get over that. Like, if you gonna dress like a skateboarder, which I feel like I dress like majority of the time or whatever, I feel like I don't think nobody should say, well, you less beautiful because you don't have on this, that, and the third. I should always be beautiful no matter what. And no, I don't want you to hunk at me on the road. Just because I want to feel beautiful doesn't mean I want you to hunk at me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Are you all ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, great. So the last and final question for the night is 18. Is the who the hell wrote this question? Candace wrote this shit. Is an 18-year-old really an adult? Do black families kick their 18-year-olds out the house too soon? I think was okay. All right, so I think she was. Yeah, so I guess what she was trying to say was like, should the age of adulthood be raised? Right. I would say that an 18-year-old, in my opinion, isn't really an adult. I think back to when I was 18 and like how, man, I thought I knew a lot that I really didn't. You know, I'm 20, I'll be 29 this year, and I still know that I don't know a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? But like 18 is like when you're just like living that, like, yo, I'm grown now, can't nobody tell me shit. But you have so many more
lessons.
But when they say the black family, it's like that's another whole understanding, because I think a lot of people could say, I heard my friend or my mama say to me, yo, you think you grown? You can get the hell out, you know? Yes. And I'm only 16 or 14, and you telling me I think I'm grown. So then I'm like, well, whatever it is I'm doing some grown shit because you think it's grown. So since you want to put me out, I'm gonna go show you better than I could tell you. And that's how you got a lot of people who ran away and never went home and just going on with their own thing.
Yeah. So like that whole do black families like kick their 18-year-old out the house too soon?
They kick their younger kids out.
That stemmed from a conversation me and Candace were talking about how, and I hate to compare our culture to other cultures, but how in other cultures. It's okay to stay at home for as long as you need to stay at home until you get it together. Yeah. You know, but like in our, and I guess I'll specifically speak to black American culture because I'm a black American. Our whole agenda is, yo, once I hit 18, go to college. Once I graduate from college, get a job, get my own place. When sometimes that may not be the best, you know. It's like, yo, y'all stronger if you stay together.
Right. That's true, but then you could look at it like the fact that history shows that the black mom typically has kids, more than one kid in the household. And then if you have that one 18-year-old child who capable of doing these things, they older, they could bring in more money if they just go out and work. That's the thing you're gonna really be trying to push them to do, because I got 3-4 others, your sisters and brothers I gotta feed. You really can't afford to feed an extra adult, you know. But I really don't think it's a black thing. I think the lack of like having that extra money or that peace we talked about before, it enables you to be able to say, I want my child to stay until they're 34. You know, you can't afford to take care of all the bills by yourself. And then you got this adult that's saying, I'm going to stay here too, which I'm going to eat more because I'm an adult. I'm going to need more because I'm an adult. And then some people don't go out and work. So it plays on that whole thing of the fact that in history, a lot of the times, we don't come from homes where it's just 1 or 2 kids. It's like 6, 7 of them. And you 18, you got to go.
No, I think it makes it stronger. Go ahead, Keila.
If that child works.
Go ahead.
But I mean, like, the day before I turned 18, you were still taking care of me. So why now that I'm 18, I gotta go?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a next day thing. I think it's more like, are you going to go to work?
Really, like,
they was waiting on your ass. Yeah. They was like, nigga, the contract's clear. Your ass.
You have to go. No, for real though. But like, I've heard parents tell their kids before they even graduate, either you go to college or you get a job, but you're gonna do something else. You can't stay here. Like, but why? Why can't I have time to figure it out? Like, I need time to kind of figure it out. I'm going to still fall. You know, this is the time where you kind of let my hand go, but you still kind of hold on to me so you can kind of guide and see and we don't guide, which is kind of why our kids, they end up coming back to us anyway. And they come back with worse credit. And they come back with student loans, car notes with cars they don't have anymore. Like, and it's like, now I got bad credit, you got bad credit. I would rather keep my child in the house and still be able to monitor what they're kind of doing, so I can lead them in the direction that is better for them.
But then you gotta imagine that you just said that they don't have nobody to guide. If you're a person that can't guide a child and the child is staying with you and they're just growing up, and then you got some instances where they stay home with those alcoholic parents and never go anywhere and become alcoholics because that person could not guide them. Sometimes you need to let your birds fly. You need to push them and say, okay, y'all got bad credit and shit. Ain't nothing for you here. You got to go do something. I think that's what they mean. Like, either do something or don't do nothing and go somewhere else. But try. And if you fall, you can stay here. But it's better than saying, I'm sleeping on my mama's couch and I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go working. No, you need to try, because while you're trying to do something, you can still be thinking of how to help your mom if she don't have this or she don't whatever. You can't just
go ahead.
Stay there.
No, I think, and I think that comes with understanding your child. Like, because every kid is different. Like, if you know your kid is out there trying and they just need a solid base, like they can't quite, fly yet on their own, then let them stay at home and figure it out. As long as you know, like I know, like they're going out here every day, they're trying, they're falling, they're making mistakes. And then there is that other segment of kids who, like, especially like if they don't have any responsibility, not used to having responsibility, and they used to their parents taking care of them, they're gonna sit up there and let their parents take care of them. And that goes to what she said earlier about, like, she might have, if she has other kids, like, she can't afford to feed another adult plus your brothers and sisters or whatever. And then, like, let's not even get into, like, if somebody is sick or like there's something wrong with the house, all these other things that can take money. And I think that also, to some degree, like, plays into, like, just the fact that Black kids unfortunately have to grow up a little faster than other cultures in general anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, like, these same
cut you off and say this. I think it's beyond the whole age, turning 18. I think it's more so about having a plan. What's your plan? Like, and I think as a culture and as families, we have to talk about that, and we don't. The plan is get out of my house at 18, or the plan is go to college and go away. But even in going to college, what is your plan? And to be able to talk about that more in the family as you're growing up. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What do you plan to do with your life, so that we can help nurture that and grow and develop that opposed to just, you're 18 and I got to now take care of you. No, what was our plan, and let's put this plan in place.
Yep.
I also think something that's not really being mentioned is the actual act of, like, kicking a child out, like, opposed to, like, all right, what are you going to do?
Right.
Because it's like you gotta go, but, like, is a child saying I'm not ready, or is a child like just expecting to go? And I think it's important that parents, like, in line with having a plan, like, your child's gonna turn 18, so I think it's bogus to kick a child out that's not ready to go, that you didn't really help facilitate and train to go out.
Transition.
But if you, like, if you at like 9, like, hey, you need to be learning this, I'm gonna have you doing this, because you need to be out my house by 16.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then, like,
well, what do you guys think about, maybe it's not even about kicking them out or saying preparing them to get out on their own, but the whole idea of families, like, live in the same houses together. Like, there's groups of people who have big ass houses where it's like, yo, auntie stay over here, uncle stay over here, we all bringing all this income into the household. Like, is that something that we should adopt?
Wait, I feel like, go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was trying to figure it out, like, what we doing.
and we got like 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
I'm laughing because that brings back my family, and I really miss my family right now. But that's how it was back in Trinidad. I had my auntie right there, my auntie upstairs, my grandmama in the front room, and that's what it was. It was just, we owned the land, we owned the house, and it was fruits and pets, and we had to take care of them. But
so what happened when one of you all turned 18?
Oh no, they still stayed there, and we, they brought in the money, but I wasn't.
They brought in the money.
They brought in the money. They
Right.
did what they did.
Brought in something because you can't
To
feed
support
no extra
that.
heads.
What did you say?
I feel like that goes to knowing how to respect other people's boundaries. You grow up in your parents' house, and you might be an adult, and you might be able to make your own decisions, but they still want to treat you as if you're a child.
Yeah.
You have, for us to all be able to cohabitate, you have to respect the fact that I'm gonna make my own decisions. That if I don't make the decision that you wanted me to make, it's still okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a cultural thing too.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
also, like, like different cultures. Like, so my father is Senegalese. I didn't grow up with my father, but also, like, a lot of immigrants are like, yo, you're gonna be a doctor. Like, you're gonna be a lawyer. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it ain't no what I want. I think that's something we've adopted as Americans. Like, one is very individualistic aspect of like, this is what I want to do, and irregardless of what my family needs or like my wants. Because I think as a teenager, like, I moved out at 17, but not because I needed to move out at 17. Just like my homie's parents moved out, the mortgage was still there, the lights was on. We made it a pad. You know what I mean? But that was out of my want to like get from up under rules, but like not probably what was best for like.
So you weren't forced out. You just decided to
I
walk away.
graduate in a few months anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It happened. I did it.
So that's like, cause that introduces like a whole new perspective to the conversation. Like where it's like, you were you prepared? Did they prepare you to be out on your own, or you just was like, yo, I feel like I'm ready.
I mean,
screw
like,
this.
And did they support you when you?
Yeah, she did. I mean, I think my mom, she loved me, so like she cried because I was gonna be going to college in a few months, and like I wasn't really around a lot in the last couple of months.
Did you have that financial support?
Yeah.
That's a different.
Not
Well,
to, it's
from
a,
her, or so by that point I had already had a job. And other
Okay,
things that
okay.
supported myself, so it was.
You had a plan.
Yeah, and even the house, like I said, the lights were on, so like the bills were extremely low. So it was like like you get a room. All we gotta pay is to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's love.
And then after college, did you ever go back home?
Like,
After college, did you ever go back home, or did you just
Nah.
stay on? Yeah.
Okay.
they said we in it.
All right, y'all, man. Hey, I love each and every last one of you, yo. We're wrapping it up, yo. This is the end of episode 006 of Black Group Therapy. We're gonna clap it up. Closing, we want to again thank Loop 2150 for opening their doors, allowing us to do this dope podcast. Make sure y'all follow them on social media. Follow me at John_the author on social media. Anybody else want to shout their social medias out?
KYNG_Empress on social media.
Indeed, indubitably.
Hakim Do, HAKIMDOUGH.
Yes, sir.
Citizen X got bars.
AOS brand and Instagram.
Yes, indeed. Rachel? Yeah.
Amina Duran, that's AMINADORYN on Instagram.
Dope.
Okay. My Instagram is made for them. The actual number 4 though.
Dope. Hey, yo, man. Once again, Black Group Therapy. We out. Peace.